Welcome to the Strategic Brief. Today's episode dives deep into a series of events recalibrating global security, defense industry shakeups, and alarming domestic flashpoints. We'll unpack a drone incident off Korea, a major U.S. Navy procurement reversal, a shocking building fire in Hong Kong, a targeted shooting near the White House, and a sweeping military move across Europe. You might want to hit like, subscribe, or share, but only if you're ready to join a community that reads between the headlines and grasps what's really shifting in global power right now. That opening alone tells you how fast and turbulent the global landscape is. We have to jump immediately into the first flashpoint, because the waters off the Korean peninsula just saw something pretty serious.
Very serious. We're talking about the deliberate destruction of a critical U.S. intelligence asset.
So what exactly happened here?
Well, we're talking about a U.S. Air Force MQ-9 Reaper drone. And it wasn't just lost, it was intentionally shot down.
By its own side, right.
By its own side. And that raises some really big questions about, technology and strategy in these contested airspaces.
And for anyone who doesn't know, the MQ-9 Reaper isn't some small device. This is a crucial, high-altitude, long-endurance asset.
It's a huge deal. It's their eye in the sky, gathering incredibly sensitive intel. So losing one is expensive, sure, but the potential intelligence fallout is the real worry.
So what triggered that decision? Why destroy your own multi-million-dollar drone?
It was a technical failure, a complete communications breakdown during a routine mission.
The comms just cut out.
Completely, and that's where the strategic protocol kicks in. Once they lost contact, it was brought down into a designated ocean zone and destroyed.
And that protocol, I'm guessing it's there for two big reasons.
That's right. One is to avoid an uncontrolled crash, obviously.
And the other is to keep the tech, the sensitive gear, from falling into the wrong hands, especially in that part of the world.
Precisely. No injuries were reported, which is good, but you just can't ignore the timing.
What's the context here?
These Reapers were just recently stationed there permanently as part of this bigger U.S. surveillance push against, Pyongyang and Beijing.
So even if it's just a technical glitch at its heart, the ripple effect is massive. It shows a real vulnerability.
It does. It forces you to ask if these high-tech eyes in the sky are maybe a bit more fragile than we'd like to think.
That's a perfect segue, actually, because institutional failure isn't just about losing assets in the field. Let's shift to a massive internal shakeup in the U.S. Navy, the Constellation-class frigate program.
This is a huge internal reset. You're right, it feels less like a simple procurement reversal and more like a whole doctrinal shift.
So what's the headline?
The Navy has essentially scrapped the bulk of the program. They've canceled the last 4 ships that were under contract.
Wow. What about the ones already being built?
The 2 under construction are still being reviewed, but the message is pretty clear.
It feels like just yesterday this program was being sold as the smart, savvy way to rebuild the fleet.
It was. The whole idea was to adapt the proven Italian and French FREMM frigate hull. It was supposed to be fast and affordable.
So what went wrong?
The adaptation itself was the problem. They basically tried to stuff way too much advanced U.S. tech into a foreign hull design.
The classic procurement nightmare.
The trifecta, yeah. Massive cost overruns, huge delays, and radical redesigns that just bloated the ship and destroyed the whole value proposition. Speed and affordability just vanished.
So what signal does this send? When you scrap 4 ships, you're leaving a huge hole in your future fleet right when China and Russia are expanding theirs.
Leadership is framing it as a strategic shift. I think we have to take that seriously. They're saying they need to prioritize speed, affordability, and flexibility.
A different kind of fleet, then.
Exactly. Maybe one with smaller, cheaper, more numerous assets. It signals a move away from those huge, incredibly expensive multi-mission ships.
But can the industry even do that? Can these massive shipyards pivot that quickly?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? The reversal admits the current system is too slow for how fast threats are evolving. But whether they can actually adapt to fill that void, the whole maritime power balance kind of hinges on that.
For military strategy, we have to pivot pretty sharply to a devastating civilian event. It's a tragic reminder of what happens when infrastructure fails in these hyperdense urban areas. We're talking about the fire at Wang Fo Court in Hong Kong.
The scale of this it's just hard to grasp. A massive fire that ripped through multiple high-rise residential towers in the Tai Po district.
And Hong Kong is one of the most densely packed places on Earth.
It is. So when a tragedy like this hits, the numbers just escalate with brutal speed.
The death toll is horrific. 55 confirmed dead, and reports are saying hundreds are still unaccounted for.
It's an unbelievable number for a modern city. The emergency response was huge, over 140 fire trucks, 60 ambulances. But the fire speed and intensity just overwhelmed them early on.
What made it spread so fast?
The context of the buildings themselves, they were undergoing major renovations.
And the sources mentioned external bamboo scaffolding, which is now completely gone. That sounds like a major red flag.
A huge one. The investigation is still ongoing, of course, but that kind of scaffolding, especially traditional flammable bamboo, can act like a giant ladder for a fire.
That plus all the renovation debris. It's a recipe for disaster.
It really is. And this isn't just a Hong Kong issue. It's a wake-up call for every Megacity about the risks in older buildings, especially during construction.
It forces a really uncomfortable conversation about safety, oversight, and the real cost of living so vertically packed together.
Absolutely. It highlights just how vulnerable that vertical city structure can be.
Now let's bring it back home to a volatile domestic flashpoint that shook the U.S. Capitol itself. A targeted shooting, just blocks from the White House.
This was incredibly brazen. An attack right in downtown Washington, D.C. 2 members of the West Virginia National Guard were shot. Both are in critical condition.
In what's supposed to be the most secure zone in the country.
Exactly. The suspect, who's been reported as an Afghan national, was taken into custody pretty quickly.
And the government's reaction?
Immediate and forceful. The Donald Trump administration ordered 500 additional National Guard troops to be deployed to the city right away.
And this is where it gets really political, because this whole deployment comes amid these ongoing legal battles over the military presence in the Capitol in the first place.
It's like a ball lightning in a turbulent season, as one source put it. It hits every single raw nerve at once.
How so?
Because the Guard's presence in D.C. is already so contentious. There are all these legal fights over their authority. This attack just pours gasoline on that fire.
So this violent act essentially becomes justification for the very thing that was being debated.
It completely reinforces the narrative that the Capitol is unstable and needs a heavy, visible military presence.
Yeah.
The legal nuances kind of get pushed to the side.
And it fuels all these other debates about security, immigration, and political division.
It's a textbook case of how a single act of violence can trigger a massive government response that fundamentally alters the security landscape.
All right, for our final point, let's cross the Atlantic to a proactive, long-term strategic move from France. A complete rethink of national resilience that involves its youngest citizens.
This is a really significant move. President Emmanuel Macron has announced a voluntary youth military service program.
And to be clear, this is not a return to the draft, to mandatory conscription.
Absolutely not. It is specifically voluntary, targeting 18 and 19-year-olds.
What does the service actually involve?
It's a 10-month commitment. You get 1 month of actual training, and then 9 months serving in domestic security or civic units.
The initial numbers seem pretty small. About 3,000 volunteers starting in mid-2026.
They're starting modestly, yes, but the long-term vision is enormous. The goal is to scale up to 50,000 volunteers a year by 2035.
That's a huge number. That would fundamentally change things.
It would. It would integrate military discipline and civic training back into French society on a massive scale.
This really speaks to a broader shift in thinking across Europe, doesn't it? This idea of national readiness or societal resilience.
That's the core of it. Macron's words were that the goal is for France to be ready and be respected. It's about building national cohesion. It's an acknowledgement that future challenges might require capabilities far beyond just a professional army.
So if we just step back for a second and look at all 5 of these stories. A high-tech drone fails. A massive naval program collapses. A city faces a horrific tragedy. A domestic attack rocks a capital. And a European power tries to build resilience from the ground up.
5 very different flashpoints, but when you put them side by side, you start to see a larger pattern.
That's a pattern.
It's about how deeply interconnected everything has become. Military readiness, industrial stability, urban safety, domestic security. They aren't separate issues anymore. This isn't just a turbulent news cycle. This feels like a genuinely transformative moment in geopolitics. If you found this briefing useful, consider dropping a like or sharing it. It helps get this kind of insight to more people who care about what's happening behind headlines. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Strategic Brief.